Hey there internets, I'm Michael and this is Toucan Play That Game, bringing you another edition of Game Night in Review. And you'll notice once again I have no games on the table here, and that is because none of the games being played I own. So, if you don't know, Game Night in Review is just a series of videos where I talk a little bit about the games me and other people in my games group are choosing to play at Games Night. Now, it's important to note that these are not fully fledged reviews where I've done lots of playtesting with multiple numbers, etc. For the most part, it will just be I've played it once or I was looking at other people playing it, and that's it. So, with that out of the way, let's talk about the games that were played last night. So let's start with games other people were playing, and there was only one other game that was being played, and that was Tzolk'in. So this is quite a heavy Euro to my understanding. It's not one I've had the chance to play. It's one I wouldn't be upset to play, but I had already arranged to play another game, so I jumped straight into that other game. If it came up as an option again, I would be happy to play it, as I say. I don't really know a huge amount about how it works mechanically. It looks really pretty and bright and vibrant, lots of cubes and everything when it was on the table. Very interesting. So might be one you want to check out if you're interested in Euros. I don't really know. Obviously some people like it because they're choosing to play it. So let's then move on to the games that I played. Now, there were two games I played last night. One was the game that I arranged to play, which was Dark Moon, and the other game was For Sale. So let's start by talking about Dark Moon. Now, as I say, I had arranged to play this ahead of time, so someone recently got it in the last week, and it was up on the forum, you know, I've just got this, and it was, oh yeah, I'll play. So I quite like hidden traitor games, although I definitely do have a favourite, but I'll leave that till later. So let's talk a bit about what Dark Moon actually is. As I've said, it is a hidden traitor game, and it was originally labelled as, I think it's Battlestar Galactica Express. Now, it was no way official or anything to do with Battlestar Galactica. It was kind of a home-ruled print-and-play thing, and then a publisher picked it up, did a Kickstarter of it, and had to, of course, put a different theme on it because they didn't have the rights to use Battlestar Galactica. So the theme of Dark Moon is that you are all part of a mining colony, mining organisation on the moon of Titan. I can't remember what you're mining for, plutonium, something, it doesn't really matter. What the important thing is that within this colony, a virus has broken out. And for some reason, this virus makes you homicidal and want to kill all your friends, but otherwise has no symptoms or visible effect. So it's a kind of a weird virus that just makes you murderous. And I'm kind of glad that does not exist because, well, it would be a bad world if that did, really, wouldn't it? But anyway, so that's the whole idea. You've got some people infected, some people not. And the infected people are trying to kill those who are uninfected. But of course, no one knows who's infected and who's not. That's the whole nature of this game, is trying to figure that out and win. So last night we were playing with a group of 7, and I think that's the full player number. It does say it can play 3 to 7. So I was a bit nervous going for the full 7 because of my experiences playing Battlestar, and this is meant to be that light, very similar but quicker. And I have found Battlestar to be a long, dragged out game that I don't actually find very enjoyable because it is too long and drawn out. Now, did Dark Moon solve that? Well, as I say, we played with 7 people. We played it in the space of 2 hours with the full group of 7. So I think that was actually pretty good. It did play quicker. It is living up to that. And it did have the feel, sort of Battlestar. I would say I prefer this to Battlestar Galactica, definitely. I did find the fact that we had 7 people meant we didn't really gain a lot of information about each person or have a lot of turns each. I think over the course of the full game, everyone only had 2 turns. And when you're trying to determine whether or not someone's a traitor by what they're doing, when they're not doing much because they don't have many turns, it was really difficult. And I don't know if the traitor, the infected, were playing it too cool, so weren't giving away their hand. I mean, one of them did. One of them, like a couple of turns in, everyone was like, you're not a couple of his turns, literally a couple of turns overall, because at the end of each turn there's these tasks that everyone takes part in. So they're the kind of biggest way you can gain information. And he consistently put in the worst possible dice, and it's like, I find it hard to believe that twice you've had that statistically, that was the only thing you could put in. But if he'd put in a 1 instead of a minus 1 instead of a -2 on one of those, it probably wouldn't have been so certain that he was the traitor. And even then, it wasn't certain. It was just people were fairly sure. But it was a good game, and there was a lot of banter around the table. Everyone seemed to really enjoy it. I think a lot of people felt the game felt like just a learning experience. That, right, now we know how to play the game. Let's actually play it properly. Especially the people who were infected felt that way. And I think that is common with a lot of games when you're first learning them, though. So, not necessarily a drawback of the game. Component-wise and art-wise, how do I put this nicely? Rubbish. That's probably the nicest way I can put it. I mean, the art is just so bland and horrible. You look at the main board and it's like, it's just dull. It engages you in no way whatsoever. And I'm sure that's kind of the feel they were after with the whole mining colony thing, but yeah, it doesn't appeal. And then component-wise, the boards and everything, those were pretty good components. The screens folded nicely and worked actually really nicely. Probably some of the nicest screens for hiding stuff that I've actually encountered. They did do a really good job on those. But the dice were actually quite bad component-wise, and I don't know if the guys just got this, had an unlucky copy, but several of the red dice... one of the red dice was miscoloured. It was like somewhere between the black and the red. And there were several dice, the etching, the white of the numbers on the dice was coming off already. So that wasn't great. So component-wise and art-wise, really put off by this game. Now, gameplay-wise, I did enjoy it. As I say, everyone did enjoy it. However, it isn't my favourite traitor game. I will say that. But I would say it did get across that feel of Battlestar Galactica. So if you do enjoy Battlestar Galactica, but you don't want to sit there for 8 hours, you'd rather have a 2-hour game, this is definitely a game for you to look into and get. But with that said, there are differences. So in Battlestar Galactica, you're using cards to kind of complete the quests and stuff. And it feels that gives much more control. So it is hidden, but it is control. I was surprised at how well the dice do work in Dark Moon. But at the same time, it felt like the dice hid too much. So the way it would work on a task, for example, is you would roll your dice in secret. And you'd have 4 dice maybe, up to 4 dice. And you would then pick one or one or more to contribute to the task. And then you can re-roll. But what was happening is people were rolling and going, they're all negative, and putting in a negative number. But then were they all negative? You don't know. And it was too easy and too likely, I guess, for it to be negative, so it made it really hard. Just because someone put in a negative dice, and you know they might have gone, oh, there's a -2 for my first one, I'll do a reroll, oh, and there's a +1, which still equates to a -1, which is good for the betrayers. So it was really, really hard to get information and tell because of the way that those dice seemed to work. But it was still fun anyway, and there was still loads of suspicion and like multiple layers of but if you're, and that is the beauty of these games. But it is not my favourite. I still prefer Dead of Winter. Now, I have done a full series of videos on those, so do check them out if you're not sure what Dead of Winter is. But I prefer it because A, you don't know there's a traitor. B, the whole secret objectives in that help give a bit of disguise for the traitor, but not a full disguise. And I just find the whole tension thing and the way it works, you've got much more information to go on in the way, number of turns you're going to have, etc. And yeah, I mean, I did enjoy Dark Moon, don't get me wrong, I did enjoy it, but it's still not my favourite. I disliked Battlestar because of how long and drawn out it was, and this kind of hits a neutral spot. I will happily play it again, but I have no intention of going out and buying it. Now, of course, can 2 play that game? No. And that's another way Dead of Winter is better, because Dead of Winter, you can play co-op, and it's still a good game. This, if you played co-op, it would just be boring and flat. And part of the reason for that is you have these like 3 areas of the colony that are kind of different ways you can die if they build up and get damaged, etc. And we were never threatened at all on any of them. There was no threat, no feeling of concern or worry there at all. And so if you were playing a co-op, it would just be rolling dice and seeing what happens. There would be no tension, there'd be no concern. It would just be, have we passed this task? Well, I rolled positive, so yes, we have. Or, oh, I rolled negative, so no, we failed this one. And that would be it. So, no, 2 cannot play this game. And I would actually recommend anyone to get Dead of Winter over getting this. However, if you've already tried Dead of Winter and you don't like that, and you do like Battlestar but want a quicker version, then this is the game for you. So, that is Dark Moon. Then we played a quick game at the end of the night, just a little fillery type thing, and that was For Sale. Now, I quite like the artwork on this. I think apparently there is a new version either out or coming out that actually has more cartoony, nicer artwork, but I didn't dislike the artwork on this. I thought it was quite good and okay. Now, it was a bidding game, and I'm not a huge fan of bidding, and it was largely about the bidding and then kind of a trick-taking thing. So, for those of you who don't know, the idea of For Sale is that you are property moguls going out buying and selling properties. So, you're buying them at auction and then you're going off and selling them and trying to get the best buyer you can. So, there's kind of 2 different phases of the game. You have first that auction phase where you deal out a number of properties, and the properties all range from a number of 1 to 30, so that's 30. So there are 30 different properties, and I think you have to remove some depending on the number of players, but we were playing with the full count of 5, so we had them all in, and each kind of turn we would deal out 5 cards, and then the person whose start of turn it was, starting the turn, they would place first bid, and then it would go around placing bid, and the way it would work is you were bidding to have the best card. Now, at any point in that bidding, you could withdraw, even before you've placed a bid, and take the worst card available. So that did work kind of nicely, and if you did that, you only paid half the money you've bid so far, whereas if you won, you paid the full amount. So there was kind of a money management aspect of this bidding as well. So that was interesting. I did not do well at it, though. I don't think I'm very good at bidding and the whole strategy. My kind of idea was, well, I'll just try and be middle of the packish on the numbers, and that didn't work. And then it meant that I was going middle of the numbers on the money. So the way the money worked is the next kind of stage of the game was you dealt out a number of money cards ranging from values of 0 to 15. equal to the number of players. And then each person would play face down a property, and then you'd reveal those properties. Whoever had the highest value property got the highest amount of money, the lowest property got the lowest amount of money. So that actually, it was a very simple game, and it did work really well, and it was quick, and it was kind of fun, just not my kind of game. But if you're interested in the kind of bidding mechanic, then it's definitely one for you to check out. So that was For Sale. Now, obviously, would this work as a two-player game? Oh, hard for me to judge, having only played it with 5. I mean, there's definitely grounds for it to work as a two-player game. How good it would be, I don't think. I think bidding tends to fall kind of flat as a two-player, so I don't think it would work that great. And that is it for Games Night in Review for this video. So I hope you have enjoyed it, and of course, if you have, please do share and check out the rest of the videos and everything. And of course, do also check us out on social media. We are on Facebook and also on Twitter. And as always, thanks for watching, and bye for now.